So here we have decimals, fractions, and percents, and these are important fundamentals in the number system. So as we will see, these will later be used really in any topic in mathematics, for instance algebra, geometry, trigonometry. And so let's look at some of these. So to start off with decimals, we have different decimals that we can look at. For instance, we say that 0.4 is a decimal. Similarly, 0.6 is a decimal. 0.8 is also a decimal. And so these are really denoted as decimals. However, when we're looking at fractions, we really write this in the form of a over b. Really, where a and b are integers, so they're classified as numbers that are not fractions. And so if we were to write 0.4 in the form of a over b, by practice you should know that it's 2 over 5. Similarly, 0.6 would be 3 over 5. And 0.8 would be 4 over 5. And so how do you exactly confirm that this is giving you 0.8? Well, if you look at 4/5, for instance, really you can divide 4 by 5. And so if you are dividing 4 by 5, well, we know that you want to put a 0 in, obviously, and this 0 is important because it means that the answer is less than 1. You have 0 point something. Now, how many times is 5 going to 40? 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40, and that gives you 0. So really, 4/5 is giving us the decimal value of 0.8. Now, we can write this in the form of a percent as well, and really what a percent means is that it's per 100. And so it's not really confusing. If you have a decimal, for instance, you have 0.8 here, you're really multiplying this by 100. And so if you multiply this by 100, we just move the decimal place 2 times. And so that gives us 80. And so this means that 0.8 is really 80%. Now, usually what happens is people don't understand why it's giving us 80. But if you think about it, a percent's really per 100. So if this is per 100, we are really saying that this is 80 per 100, which is 0.08. So it makes sense, the relationship between these three. You can write this as any one of them you really want, but a fraction is usually considered more accurate. And the reason for that is, say on a test, quiz, or something like that, your final answer is like 0.33333. I mean, technically you can write 0.33 and then obviously round it down at some point, which would really be just 0.33 if you were rounding it to 2 decimal places. However, if you write this as 1/3, this is a more accurate form because 1/3 does represent 0.333 recurring. This symbol here means recurring. So 3 3's will be repeating. And so these are the basics, obviously. You have a decimal. You want to multiply that by 100 to get the percent form. If you want to convert it from a fraction to a decimal, you are dividing the numerator by the denominator. Now, what if we have something like some problems that deal with these 3 different concepts? So what that means is, like, for instance, say you're given something like, what is 40% of 40? Well, if you're given something like this, what is 40% of 40? You have to think that 40% is really, you can write this as a decimal or a fraction. So if we know that 40% is 0.4 as a decimal, which is 2/5 as a fraction, we can write 2/5 here. Whenever you have these problems, you always want to remember that of means multiplication. So it's multiplication. And then 40 is just 40. So you have 2/5 of, or in other words, multiplication. You're multiplying 2/5 by 40. So solving this, we get 16. Because 5 divided by 5 is 1, 40 divided by 5 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16. So this means that 16 is 40% of 40. And so, again, this is, I can give another example. For instance, if you have something like, what is, let us say, 60% of 200. So 60%, again, with practice you would know that this is 3/5 of, in this case, means multiplication. So we're multiplying 3/5 by 200. And so just doing the math, you know that 5 divided by 5 is 1, 200 divided by 5 is 40, 40 times 3 is 120. Therefore, 120 is 60% of 200. So these are the basic problems that you may encounter, and again, you really need to understand that of means multiplication. Now, again, and then there are other parts too. You may have something that's a recurring decimal. For instance, if you're given something like express 0.45 recurring as a fraction, this can be challenging because it's not as easy as expressing 0.4 as a fraction, which we all know is 2/5. Now, if we have to express this, let us make a visual representation of this. So 0.45 repeating is really, I mean, if you think about this, it's 0.45, 45, 45, and so on. Now, if we say that x is this value, then in other words, we know what 100x is, right? So if we assume x is this, then we know what 100x is. It would just be moving the decimal place twice. It will be 45.45 recurring. And so think about it. If we were to find what 99x is, we're really subtracting the x from 100x. That's 99x, which really means that 45.45 repeating, or if you don't want to write this as this, we could just say that 45, 45, 45. You get the idea here. Minus, and then we have 0.45 from the x, and so you see that all of the 4545s just are gonna cancel out. What we're really left with is 45. So this means that 99x is equal to 45. Now we know that 99x is equal to 45, therefore we know that x is equal to 45 over 99. And so obviously if you want to simplify, you can. Simplifying, you can divide both by 3, you get 15 over 33, and I believe you can divide this further, so you get 5 over 11. So really using this method, you can really determine any decimal, whether it's recurring or not, as a fraction. So here we can see that 0.45 recurring is really 5/11. Thanks for watching.